You don't lack discipline. You lack a stable chemical state. And that's the uncomfortable part. Most people think discipline fails because they're lazy, inconsistent, or not driven enough. But the real failure happens earlier, at the moment you expect motivation to carry you through friction. Motivation is a mood. Discipline cannot depend on a mood. That's the contradiction. Most people don't fail because they don't care. They fail because they built their consistency on something unstable. Motivation feels powerful because it's chemically loud. When you feel inspired, your brain releases dopamine. Not the pleasure chemical, that's a common misunderstanding, but the anticipation chemical. Dopamine spikes when your brain predicts reward. It sharpens focus. It increases drive. It temporarily reduces the perceived cost of effort. In that state, difficult tasks feel lighter. You think, this time will be different. But dopamine fluctuates. It changes with sleep, stress, novelty, social feedback, even what you scrolled past minutes ago. So when discipline depends on motivation, it depends on a fluctuating neurochemical signal. That is unstable by design. Most people mistake intensity for reliability. High motivation creates intense action, but intensity fades. What remains is friction, and friction is where the system collapses. Look at the sequence clearly. Cause. You wait to feel motivated before starting. Behavior. You only act when energy is high. Consequence. Your output becomes inconsistent. Over time, inconsistency erodes identity. You stop trusting yourself. And when self-trust drops, effort feels heavier. Not because the task changed, but because your internal narrative did. You begin thinking, I'm just not disciplined. But the real issue was structural. You built your behavior around a variable state. There's another layer. The brain is wired to conserve energy. It prefers familiar patterns. This is effort avoidance. If a task requires decision-making, setup, or uncertainty, your brain calculates cost. If the cost feels higher than the predicted reward, it delays. This is not weakness, it's efficiency. Now combine effort avoidance with decision fatigue. Every decision throughout the day drains cognitive bandwidth. By evening, the part of your brain responsible for planning and restraint is fatigued. And yet, that's when most people expect themselves to rely on willpower. It's a structural mismatch. You're asking a tired system to generate discipline from nothing. It won't. Here's the shift. Discipline should not be an act of force. It should be the result of design. When behavior is designed correctly, motivation becomes optional. A system reduces decisions. A system reduces friction. A system creates defaults. And defaults are powerful because the brain follows the path of least resistance. If the default option supports your goal, you move forward without internal negotiation. That negotiation is what drains you. Consider habit loops. Cue, action, reward. Most people try to force the action while ignoring the cue. They say, I'll just push through. But if the cue isn't automatic, the action requires decision-making. And decision-making invites resistance. Instead, design stable cues. Same time, same location, same sequence. Instead of I'll work out when I feel ready, the system becomes shoes placed by the door, alarm at the same time daily. Workout starts immediately after brushing teeth. No debate. You're not choosing, you're following a script. The less you negotiate, the more consistent you become. Environment design matters more than willpower. If your phone is on your desk, distraction is the default. If your workspace is cluttered, friction is higher. If unhealthy food is visible, consumption increases without thought. These aren't moral failures. They are environmental triggers. Your behavior is highly context-dependent. Change the context, and behavior changes with less effort. Many people resist this. They want to feel stronger instead of making the environment easier. But strength is unreliable. Structure scales. Another failure pattern appears in goal setting. People set outcome-based goals. I will write a book. I will lose weight. I will study every day. Outcomes are abstract. They require sustained motivation because progress feels distant. Systems focus on process instead. I write 300 words at 7 a.m. I prepare meals on Sunday. I study for 45 minutes after dinner. The system defines the behavior. The outcome becomes a byproduct. When you focus on process, you detach from emotional volatility. You show up because it's scheduled, not because you're inspired. Every time you think, should I do it now or later, you are burning cognitive energy. Micro-negotiations accumulate. They create mental noise. Systems eliminate negotiation by pre-deciding. Clothes laid out, calendar blocked, gym bag packed, website blocker active. You are engineering obedience to your own plan, not through force, through friction control. Lower friction for useful behaviors. Raise friction for destructive ones. Make distractions harder, make progress easier. Notice what this approach does not rely on. Not confidence, not excitement, not self-talk, just structure. When the system is stable, mood becomes irrelevant. You don't need to feel driven to follow a default. You execute the next step. Over time, identity shifts. When behavior becomes consistent, the brain updates self-perception. I am someone who trains. I am someone who writes. I am someone who follows through. Identity forms from repeated evidence, not from affirmations. Motivation-first discipline produces bursts of action without enough repetition to alter identity. System-based discipline accumulates proof, and proof changes belief, quietly, reliably. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your structure. If your structure depends on how you feel, you will feel inconsistent. If your structure runs independently of mood, consistency becomes predictable, and predictability builds self-trust. Discipline fails when it depends on motivation, because motivation was never designed to be stable. It's a signal, not a foundation. Treat it like weather. Useful when present, irrelevant when absent. Build your structure so it stands regardless of the forecast. Stop trying to become more motivated. Start reducing friction. Pre-decide your actions. Design your environment. Create defaults that make discipline automatic. Repeat until identity catches up. Discipline is not an emotion you summon. It is a structure you install. And once installed, it runs whether you feel like it or not. If this perspective was useful, consider applying it to one behavior today, not through intensity, through design. That is how discipline becomes your default.